Diplomatic tensions between the United States and China have taken another dive today after the abrupt closure of the Chinese consulate in the American city of Houston. Chinese officials say that Washington ordered the consulate to be shut down all operations on Tuesday, and Beijing has condemned the move. Well, US authorities say the building was shut to protect American intellectual property and the private information of American citizens. And that's not the only move stoking tensions between the two powers today. The United States has imposed trade sanctions on 11 companies in China's Xinjiang region. The American government says the firms are involved in human rights abuses against the Muslim population. They're known as the Uyghurs. China's Communist Party has been accused of imposing mass detentions, forced labor and forced birth control on the minority group. Well, Beijing has warned that it will take unspecified necessary measures in response to the sanctions. Well, a group of British lawyers today released a report on the need for governments to address human rights issues in Xinjiang. One of them is international human rights barrister Arif Abraham, and he joins me now from Manchester. Well, hello there to you. Many thanks for joining us. So you've been examining all the evidence of human rights abuses against China and Uyghur minorities. Now, these allegations are shocking. They have been around in the public domain for some time. But what now specifically do you want the international community to do?
So a committee of barristers based in the UK with specific specialism of international law and company law have assessed these various allegations. And the allegations have emanated from a number of different sources, independent sources, credible sources, all the way from witness testimony to high-level UN bodies. We've just issued a report through the Bar Human Rights Committee, which has identified that there are specific steps that all states in the world can take in respect of the abuses and repression that the Uyghurs are facing. Now, all states, including China, have committed to ending various types of violations of international law. That relates to prohibition on torture, prohibition on slavery, prohibition on genocide, prohibition on racial discrimination. What that means is that all states have a duty to prohibit these acts, to make sure they don't occur. They have a duty to prevent them happening and also cease them happening if they are ongoing. And they have specific duties to punish possible perpetrators and to ensure that...
Apologies for interrupting you, but China has denied all these charges of abuse. So what do you think might change, or what could it make it change?
Well, there's a difficulty here, of course, in the sense that there are no independent or fair mechanisms within China domestically to assess these violations or alleged violations. There are also reservations on treaties that China has placed, which precludes international bodies assessing these allegations. Now, these allegations emanate from so many sources that they are hard to just bat away. Now, what that means is that if a court of law was to assess these and find these abuses and treatment of the Uyghurs to have contravened international law, they would constitute extremely serious violations of various treaties that China itself has accepted. Now, what is required is that mechanisms are put in place to investigate these allegations and to make determinations on them. And the absence of any international body doing that, what states ought to be doing is to either assess these allegations themselves and to make determinations on those, or support others who are doing the same.
Okay, well then I would just like to bring in just one more issue here, because as we were just saying, well, the US has announced sanctions. France has weighed in calling for independent observers to Xinjiang, and the UK has called out human rights abuses in China. It seems that the international community is suddenly waking up to this issue. Why do you think it is doing so now? As when I was just saying earlier, this has been in the public domain for months, years.
Well, I think there are a number of factors here. Of course, many states fear political and economic consequences of calling out China. Now, there are various factors in place. Of course, there's a trade dispute in the US. There are various other economic interests that are at play here. And there's also the context in which companies are possibly abusing the rights of citizens, companies linked to China in the EU and the US. However, there is a principled issue here, and that principled issue comes because we shouldn't forget that this year marks the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. This year also marks the 25th anniversary of commemorating the genocide in Srebrenica. And of course, many of us and many states frequently resort to that refrain, never again. And where serious allegations emanating from independent sources suggest that genocide may be being committed against the Uyghur and Turkish Muslim peoples, I think we've finally reached that point where people are saying, well, these are serious allegations which must be investigated and which must be determined in a court of law.
Okay, well, Arif, Abraham, many thanks. We really do appreciate your time.